welcome back again, everyone. So I know that you are an eager set of students who want to spend the weekends on learning, right? So I appreciate it, guys. So certainly we'll keep it as interesting as possible, and I'll try to keep it as light as possible as well. Okay, so it's going to be more of an interactive session like we normally have. Okay, sounds good. So let's go get started off with what we have for today. So what did we do last time around? Can anyone tell me what we did last week? Dictionaries, list. Very good. Yeah, awesome. Sounds good. So good one, guys. So I thought probably most of you guys would have forgot about it. Okay, sounds good. So what we did last time around was that we did a little bit of list and dictionaries. So we saw that list is the one that we define within those square brackets separated by commas, right? So, so what is the advantages of list? List was that you were able to store different types of data types inside a common data structure, right? So in variables, we were able to have only one type of data type, right? And you can see that in arrays and everything in other languages, you will have only one common type of it. Okay, so now we are moving towards a real life data, right? So if you're going to have a mix of data, some of them are going to be numeric, some of them are Boolean, some of them are going to be strings. We need some data structure to hold that. So that is where list came into our rescue, right? So the problem with the list was that if you mimic a list in a spreadsheet or an Excel, okay, you're actually storing the data. How? Are you storing a data in a column or are you storing a data in a row? What are you mimicking in a list? Exactly. You're storing a data in one column, right? So you're defining one column. So it actually becomes a problem. So if you want to create, say, a list of columns, right? So it becomes tough, right? So for every column, I need to keep defining it up, right? So that's actually tough. Okay, then let's move on to, it had its advantages, but it also had its disadvantages as well, right? So its limitations. So we moved on from list to dictionary. And what is this dictionary that had? What is the dictionary? What it did have? That had key value pairs, right? So this is basically like a hash table. So you have a key and you can have associated values stored for those keys, right? So the advantage of dictionary is that you do not have to remember a value. You can only call by a key, which is nothing going to be mimicking loosely into a column of your spreadsheet, right? So you call that particular column, and if you want to find out the records, you can do that. But the disadvantage of the dictionary is that you are inserting the details into a dictionary row by row, right? So you can define only one row at a time.
Yaasheen sir,
Yeah.
I'm just interrupting you. Sorry for that. Might be you're sharing something because
No. I'm not sharing anything. I'm not sharing anything.
Thank you for confirming.
No. Yeah. So we are not entering any details as a whole, right? So we are trying to, like, say, for example, if I have 3,000 records, okay, then I cannot take 3,000 records into my dictionary at the same time. I need to write 3,000 commands, 3,000 line codes for entering it. That's going to become a tough ask, right? But it certainly helps me if in dictionary in numerous ways that similar to your English dictionary, you can store it in key value pairs and you can call the keys and get the values instead of remembering the values that are stored inside the key. So we saw that is an advantage. Okay. So to move further from this list, dictionaries, what we have is something called as data frames. Okay. You can use an automated script to insert values. Okay. But again, that is going to be a pain. You need to be bent on every time there's going to be a change in a script or something, then you need to keep changing your script as well, right? For inserting values. So to overcome all these, we used to have something called as data frames. Data frames is nothing but a replication of your Microsoft Excel. Just like how you call rows and columns, you can access the values inside a data frame by using a rows and columns. Okay, so we'll be covering in depth about pandas and data frames into our next class. Okay, but before that, we have a few things to do. Okay, so we started off doing some conditional statements, right? So I think we did those operators, those equal to operators, greater than operators, less than equal to operators and stuff. Then we moved into conditional statements. So what is this conditional statements we saw? It is data frames. Don't worry about the data frames for now. Okay, we'll cover it in full detail in next class. Okay, so if-else, right? So we saw a lot of if-else statements. So what was the structure like? If you do something, then execute this code, right? So let me bring up a blank screen, right? So what is you are defining something, say A is equal to 20. If A is greater than 15, colon, execute this code, then else execute this code. This was our syntax hero, right? So if you want to have multiple conditions, then we saw that else is going to take the form of elif, right? So that's all. Okay, so we saw that. And then we moved into another type of a conditional statement called as while statement. Can someone tell me what is this while statement about? Yeah, it is a loop statement. So what is the major difference between a while statement and an if statement? So the major difference is if a condition is met, okay, the code will get executed, okay? But then after that, the code will execute and then come out of that particular group, okay? But while statement, it will be like, as long as this condition is true, the iteration will keep continuing, okay? So that is a major difference between while statement. So if I have a counter as 0, we saw that in the example when we try to print out counters, right? So while the count is lesser than some value, keep typing out this. So it will keep typing out till you are doing that. And so what is very important in while statement? We need an iterator. So let me go ahead and share my screen now. Now it's the time for you to see it. Okay. So yeah. So you saw that the major difference between a while statement is if-else statement will check it and then come out. But in while statement, you need a manual iterator. You need to ensure that this counter increases. If you miss writing this counter, which iterates it and increases the iterator, then you are heading into an infinite loop. So you will probably be making a big mistake when you're writing a code, right? So if you just imagine that this particular line of code is missing, then what happens is, as long as this counter is lesser than 9, which is going to be perennially 0 is lesser than 9, this will keep running and typing 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, so let's imagine this. Okay, so if I don't type this code and then run this, see that you're running into an infinite loop. See this asterisk? You need to then stop the kernel, right? So always remember that you need to manually increase the counter, or rather what we call as iterator. Otherwise, your code will run into a issue. Okay, always remember that. Okay, sounds good. So let me try to build on to whatever you saw last time around, or shall I create a new notebook? So we saw while statement. So now I think we need to see for statement. I don't think we saw the for statement. Okay. So what is this for statement about? Okay. So questions on the sidelines. Yeah, you can do counter plus plus. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. So what is this for statement? Okay. So for statement is again another looping statement, just like a while statement, which iterates over a sequence of objects. Okay, so what it does is it will go through each item in a sequence and then it will execute few things. Okay, and sequence is what is called as an ordered collection of items. Okay, let me try to give you an example. Okay, so for some I, okay, in one comma. Okay. Writing the code and then I'll tell you what's happening. Okay. Okay. So what is it trying to do here is for any value. Okay. You can just put any number there. Okay. So I'm just put I. You can put any number in range. Let's see. right? For any number in the range of from 1, that means including 1. Always remember in Python, when you give the n digit, it is going to be till 5. Okay. Till 5 means excluding 5. Skip 2. Okay. Leave one value and then keep skipping. Okay. So it will include 1, go to skip one digit and then go to the next one. So it will go to 3. It will print 3 and then it will go to 5, but it will not include 5, right? So it is still 5. So it will stop and it's printing number. So you need to define a sequence, okay? And then you want to ask it to do something. I'm just printing something. You can do any other values also here. So what is the for statement used? For a sequence is true in a condition, do this set of instructions. Okay? Okay, so now let me give you a better example. Let's say, for example, you have a number list. Okay, so number list is going to be in the list is going to be the form of, say, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, this is a number list I have. Okay, so now just imagine that I need to find out the sum of the numbers which is there in this list. Okay, very big list. Okay. Okay, so I have a very big list. I want to find the summation of all the numbers inside this list. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, for number in this number list, just like English. Okay, so how do you do it logically? For number in this number list, keep adding it, right? So it's going to be summation of the number is going to be what? Sum is going to be what? That number, whatever you have taken it, plus you're going to add it to the previous sum, right? So it's going to be previous sum. So let me define the sum as going to be 0 first. Okay, so the sum is going to be 0. For number in number list, it will come and check the number. Number is going to be 2. 2 plus 0 is going to be 2. So it will store in 2, right? So then it will keep going to the second number. It will go pick 3, come here. 3 plus, the sum is going to be 2 now. So 3 plus 2 is going to become 5. So it will continue doing that. Okay, let me, after you have finished off all this stuff, you're going to print the sum. Okay, let me try. Print off the sum. Old habits by heart. Okay, so let me iterate it one more time for people who are not able to understand. Yes, you can do that. For ease of understanding, I have done that much. Okay, so so some of you guys have told that, why are you writing sum is equal to num plus sum? There's an easier way to do it. Why can't you do it like this? Okay, so if you are writing a variable like this, plus equal to, then what it does is nothing but it does is it replace that plus sum and it equates it to plus equal to. Okay, you can either do this or both means the same. Okay, so I'm just taking into account for people who are not used to coding. Okay, so you can either do this or this, both means the same. Okay. Yeah. So you can use it. Some function you can use it also. So it should not be a problem. I'm just trying to tell you how a for loop works. Okay. So now, what is this doing? I'll repeat it one more time. You have a number list. You want to find the summation of all the numbers which are there in the list. So what I'm trying to do is very simple. Okay. So let me try to share a empty page and show you how it works so that you understand that code. Okay. So what does it do? So you have a number 1, 4, 7, 8. So what do you do logically adding it? So you're going to start off with sum is equal to 0, right? Then you pick the first number. You pick the first number. Number 1 is equal to 1. And you're going to add it to the sum. So your sum is going to become what? 1. Okay. Now you're picking the second number, which is 4. And then your sum is going to become 5. Basically, what's happening is you're not adding to the old sum, you're adding it to the new sum that is there, right? Then you're picking up the second number, third number, and you're adding it to the previous sum. It's going to become 13. Okay, and then plus 8, you're going to go to the 8, and then you're going to become 21, right? So you're printing out the final sum, isn't it? You're printing the final sum. So this is the same logic that we are done here. Okay, so exactly. So the value is getting updated with the new sum every time. Okay, so I'm starting off with sum is equal to 0 for each number in this number list. Okay, sum is 0, add that number and update the sum. So you're keep updating the sum, okay, for each number in the number list, and then finally print the sum. Okay, are you guys able to understand now? Yeah, I'll do the loop again. Okay, so what it's trying to do is, it for number in number list, what it tries to do is it will go to the each number which is there in the number list. That's all. Okay, for number in number list is going to do, it will go to each number in the number list. You need to define what you need to do by going to each number in the number list. So for each number in the number list, take the sum and then add that number. That's all I'm trying to do. And I'm updating the value to sum. Okay, so it will go to the first value. It will find that the sum is 0 and the number is 2. So 0 plus 2 is equal to, sum is equal to 2. So sum has become 2 now. So it will store temporarily that sum is equal to 2. Then go to the next value. It is 3. So 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. So your sum has become 5. So it will store temporarily the sum as 5. Then we'll go to 4. 4 plus 5 is equal to 9. So your sum will become updated to 9. So it will traverse through the whole list and it will keep calculating the sum. And finally, the sum is going to become the addition of all the values over here, isn't it? And then it will print the sum. So if you want to do the multiplication, what you're going to do? The same code. If I want to find out the multiplication of all the values from first digit to the last digit, what and all I need to change? Yes, you can put the print inside the loop. Okay, this is enough. Oops, not working. Why? Exactly. So you cannot keep 0 a sum, right? So you need to put product as equal to 1, right? And then you can use so always don't think that the sum is equal to 0 is any iterator that's going to be common for all the values. It changes with your problem in hand, right? So you should look at what's the problem that you have. So you should take 1 and then multiply with the next values, right? So now it will work. So this is the product of all the values that you have in the list. Make sense? Sounds good? Awesome. So let me ask. Next goes to the next one. So I'm going to give you, okay, I'll give you a few questions. Okay, let's come to that later. So let's do this one. Okay. Okay, let me try to see if you're okay. Let's do this one before we move on to this one, because we have just recently finished this one. For number in a number list, okay, you need to find the numbers which are greater than and print them. Okay. I almost gave you the answer when I typed the question. I'm putting it into the chat window also, the question. So what you want to do is, for the numbers in the number list, you need to print out only the numbers which are greater than 5. Think about it. What you're going to do. Yep. Supervit has got it. Vivek has got it. Yeah. So what it tries to do is, you have for number list is going to traverse through a number list. Then what should you use to check if a number is greater than 5 or not? What are you going to use? If statement, exactly. So what are you going to do? For a number in number list, if the number is greater than 5, okay, then print the number. Otherwise, it will not print. So it will go to each number in the number list and will check if it is greater than 5, then print that number. Otherwise, it will not do it. Okay. See here, it will print only the numbers which are greater than 5. Are you able to understand? Yeah, sounds good. Okay. Happy? Okay. Sounds good. So now I'm going to do a small change in this. You tell me what's happening. Okay. Should give you a complete idea of what is happening. Okay. What is happening next? Can someone tell me? Fully confused here. What is happening here? The break statement is used to break out of a loop statement. Okay, remember this. Okay, so if you're looping and if you're going into an iteration and if you want to come out of that loop arbitrarily, then you should use something called as break. Okay, so effectively it stops the execution of a looping statement even if the looping condition has not become a false. Okay, so if you want to break out and come back arbitrarily, you're going to use a break statement. Okay, important note is that if you break out of a for loop or a while loop, any corresponding loop else block will not get executed. Okay, so if you have an if else block and if you're breaking inside the if loop, then the else block will not get executed. It will go out of that particular loop. Okay, remember that. So now let's come back to this question that we have. For number and number list, for each number and number list, that is nothing but your number. If the number is greater than 5, so it will check if the number is greater than 5. So it will come here. Okay, it will find that the number is greater than 5. You are going to break out of this one. Okay, so it will break out where? When this number is encountered, isn't it? So the loop will work fine only till here. It will break here. Okay, always remember that. After that, it will not. All this will not happen. Okay, fine. Now you're going to print that number. So this 234542, which is nothing but 234542, is getting printed. Now, why is this done getting printed? Look at this. You're printing the number and then printing the done. So for each number, it goes to the number, checks if it's greater than 9. If it is greater than, if it has reached this position of greater than 5, if it is not greater than 5, then it will print this one and print the done. And then go to the next one, does the same activity. Okay, and then continues it till it is reached to the final one. Okay, so that is how the printing is done. Okay, exactly. It's in the same line of the indentation of the loop, so it's doing it together. Okay, so I'm happy that you guys are able to pick that up. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so now I want to tell you a few things more on that. Okay. Okay, so we did this one and this one. Okay, so okay, that's one question, few of you. Okay. Okay, I'll teach you that. Don't worry. Okay. So the next question is that, can I do operations with the number list? Okay, so let's see that. Okay, we can do that. So you have a number list here. So you have this 2, 3, 3, 4, this big number list that you have. Okay. So now, if you want to find out the sum of these numbers, okay, but not the sum of these numbers, you're going to add some number to this. Say you're not going to add 2 plus 3 plus 4. Instead of that, you're going to add each number, you're going to add some, say, 5 to it, and then find the summation of it. Okay. How are you going to do that? Can you tell me? For each number, I need to do some operation and then use it into the loop. Yeah. So what you will typically do is, I see these answers. For each one of them, increase the number and then do the product or sum. So basically what you're trying to do here is num is equal to num plus 5, and then add it to the sum and then take the sum. So yeah, you can do that. No, nothing wrong in that. But there's a shortcut method in Python. Okay, so if you want to do an operation on each one of the elements, okay, what you do is very simple. You're going to get a new number list. Okay, so this is going to be new num list. Okay, and all that you have to do is pick that number and add whatever you want to do. So I plus 5 for every number in num list. Okay, so what is this going to do? Let me just run this. Let me run this number list. You see that? So 2 has become 7. For each number in number list, this is another use case for. Okay, for each number in number list, add 5 to it, and you can create a new number list in a single line of code. Okay. Oh yeah. So one person is asking me if we can add any conditional operator. Yes, you can do that. So same thing. New number list, another one. Okay. So new number list 1. So if you want to add 5 only for those numbers, okay, only for those numbers which are greater than 10, you say if statement here. So do an I plus 5 for I in number list if I is greater than 10. Okay, so do that. So it will create another one. There is no number I greater than 10 here. Oh, it's num list, right? So num list means there is no numbers greater than 10. So it is giving empty. So I'll create the new list. So in new list, there are certainly numbers greater than 10. So I'm going to run that. So you can see that only those numbers which are greater than 10 get 5 added to it, and only those numbers are getting printed there. Okay. Are you guys able to see it? No, this one doesn't need an indentation. This is, you are creating it, you are actually creating a list inside. So you can directly write it like this. Okay. So you can't use an else loop inside it for sure. Yeah, you can't use it. You can use for and if in one line. You can do this. Okay, this one works. Okay, this is one super useful way of creating it. Okay, this is, yeah, this is, I like this one. Yeah. Okay, so now next one, I want to give you something. Okay, so you have this number list, which is nothing but your number list. Okay, you have a number list. Can you get the numbers, and you're going to print the numbers, and for all the numbers which are greater than 4, you're going to pick those numbers and then multiply those numbers and give me the answer. Okay, I'll repeat it. For numbers in num list, okay, which is nothing but the one that I can give here. Okay, so you are going to pick the numbers greater than 5. Okay, then create a new list. Okay, and then multiply all the numbers of the new list and provide me the answer. Can you tell me what's the answer? Yeah, you can modify your list if you want. Yeah. See, your code's going to be the same. It doesn't matter what numbers you're going to put inside. Your code is going to be the same, right? So don't worry about what the numbers are going to be inside. Try it. What's going to be the first line of code? You're going to create a new list. Okay, so you can use the syntaxes, right? So for each number in this one, you're going to create a new list, which is going to be all the numbers greater than 5. So if I is greater than 5, then for I in I, right? So create that, okay? Then you can create a multiply all this. Okay, I'll give that as your homework. Okay, so do this and come. Okay, so you're going to use whatever you have studied this today and do that. Okay, so simple. Okay, so let me move on to next one. I think we have not done functions, I guess, right? Okay, sounds good. So let's move on to functions now. Okay, so right time to move to functions. All right. So we have done loopings, we have done operators and break statements and everything. Okay, so what is this functions? We touched about what is this use case of functions before. What is this functions? Yeah, Bhuvesh has already given the answer. So for the previous question, and so does Yash also. Good job. Okay. Functions are nothing but very easily, simply put, as reusable piece of code. Okay. So it's nothing but block of codes that accepts some arguments, performs some functionalities, and then provides you an output. Okay. So what you need to do is that you need to first give a name to the function. Okay. So how do you define a function is using the def keyword. Okay. So def and then give a function name. So like say, I'm going to the most famous hello world, right? So I'm going to define a function. Like say hello world is the name of my function. Okay. So within the brackets, I should define to the function what are the arguments that I need to pass. What are those arguments? Arguments are nothing but some values that you pass it to the function. Like say, for example, if I have to calculate the simple interest and then give the value out, okay, whenever I call the function. So I need to pass the principal, I need to pass the rate of interest and then the number of years, right? PNR by 100, right? So I need to pass those PNR, right? Details. So I'll define simple interest function, and within the brackets, I'm going to pass the P, comma, N, comma, R. So if anyone is going to call the function, they're going to provide the principal, they're going to provide the number of years and the rate, and the function is going to return back the EMI, right? So it's going to return back the EMI value, right? So interest value, okay? So similarly, you can create functions for whatever your business requirement is, right? So you now every time I call this particular function called say hello world, okay, you want this to do something. So I want this to print what? Hi everyone. Hope you guys were safe. Okay. Okay. So every time I call this function, I want this one to be printed. Okay. So simple, I've created a function. Okay, so now every time I say hello world and pass the arguments, I don't have any arguments here. You need to see that this one is getting printed. So every time I pass this, it will keep typing whatever this particular function is supposed to be done. So what is the use case of this function is that if say I'm there in one department and I want to use some of the business logic is going to be there done in the another department. I do not want to tell what is happening inside this piece of code. What I will give them is only that function call. Tell them that guys, you call this particular value, this will give you the details. So they will give you, they'll pass those different function name and then they'll provide whatever the requirements is. So from my department, I will tell that this is the function name and this is what you need to provide, right? So they will just provide that and get the required values. So they will not know the intrinsic details of what code I have written inside my function, right? So just like your API calls, right? So you call an API. So API was actually taught from the basic logic of how a function works, okay? So functions is nothing but interconnections between different programming units where the same code is going to be used multiple number of times. So let's try to do this, okay? So now say, for example, I want you to write a function which takes two values, okay? So your arguments are going to be 2 digits and you're going to tell which number is bigger than the other, okay? So what is going to be the function? What is going to be the logic? I'm say, for example, I'm going to call 34 and 24, 43, okay? Your function has to tell that 43 is bigger, okay? Got it? Or if it's equal, then it has to say both are equal. Okay. So irrespective of what number I give to a function, it has to do. So I don't have to copy and paste the code every time. Okay. Can we write the code for a simple function? Yes, exactly. So this is syntax and this is how a function is defined. And inside this parenthesis, I need to define the arguments inside. Okay. No, it's not flower brackets. Flower brackets is only for the dictionaries. Okay. Okay, sounds good. Perfect. Okay, so now let's start writing a function. So before every time you write a function, write a code assuming that you know the values. Okay, so hard code it and write it. Okay, then we will keep removing the hard code values and make it generic. So that's my simple approach of writing a code for functions. Okay, so like for example, if you have a is equal to say some number 78 and b is equal to 43. Okay, so you have a is equal to 78 and 43 and you want it, the output is going to be something as a is bigger than b, right? So you want this output to be like this, but b is, if b is bigger, then you need to put it as b is bigger than a. Okay, then, or if both are equal, then a is equal to b. So you need to write it for all the three scenarios. These are the three scenarios that we need to take care when we write our code. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so let's try to write the code now. Okay, so if we have conditions, we know that we need to use if, right? So if a is greater than b, okay, then what are you going to type? You're going to say print. Okay, so print, what is you going to type? 78 is bigger, right? So 78 is what? A, right? So print a is bigger, right? But it will be nicer if I can print the value of a here, right? Okay, let's come to that. Okay, so that's fine. This is good enough. Okay, so I can just say is a is bigger. Okay. Now, what is the next one that you're going to check? Elif, else if a is equal to b. Okay, print is equal to b. Okay. So the final one is print b is bigger than a. So this is a simple thing. So this will work. If a is greater than b, then print a is bigger. This is working fine. Okay, so this should be fine. All good. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so I have written the code that is required for this. Okay, so now this is fine. Now I need to define it within a function. So within a function, I need to write this. So define. So let me put it as a comparison function. So comparison, comparing numbers or something like that. Comparing num. So what do I need to pass? I need to pass A and B, right? So if I have to pass A and B, only then this will work. So now, because this function has a colon, just like if loop, you need to start the indentation. Okay, so your if loop has to start like here. So I'm moving all the things inside. Okay, or indenting all the stuff. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so if this function is called, then do this. If this is true, print this. If this is true, print this. This is true. Okay, this is good. I'm writing this. My function is created. So I'm going to call this function comparing numbers, and I'm going to pass 78 and 43. Any number you can pass. I'm just passing this to check if it's working. Awesome. A is bigger. It's working, right? Okay. So we saw that this is working. And if I change the number, say, for example, 18. Awesome. It's working, right? So the function is working fine. So my code is working. So let's say if I check for both the things are seen, is it working? Awesome. This is working. So you saw that? Sounds good. Okay. So now, if I have to, instead of telling A is equal to B, I'm putting two values. I have to print this number over here, right? So instead of putting A is equal to B, so because for a person who's calling this function, he doesn't know what is A and what is B and all, right? Because I'm defined a function A and B, and I'm using this A and B inside my code. So it's better if I print out the value instead of putting A, right? So what I do is if you want to print a variable, if you're going to give it within the quotes, it's going to print it like a string. Okay, so if you want to print a variable, print it outside and put a comma. Okay, so A is a variable, then B. Okay, so I'm just printing A is equal to moving this out. So now you can see that it will type the values itself. I need to run this code again, and then I'll run this. Awesome. So now I have 20, 32, 43. Let's see what is code. So you see that for any code that you write, I do not have to run multiple codes, right? So say, for example, if one of your friends is going to ask, mate, can you tell me the function for comparing two numbers, right? So you do not have to give this whole line of code. Just imagine that you have written one page full of code for doing some business function. You can store your function in a common place, and that person can call that function directly. You do not have to copy the code and then pass it to the other person, and that person has to run it and then run it. Okay, so all that you have to do is give the function call. Just say this is the function name, and these are the arguments that you need to pass, right? And then say, for example, you're going to say that comparing numbers is the function name, and pass the first number, comma, second number. Okay, so once you've done that, okay, that person should know, okay, so this is a function. So I'm going to take the first number. I'm just going to pass the first number. I'm going to pass the second number. And now and the code will work for me, right? So this is how a normal function is work. Okay. So far, so good, guys. You will understand? Okay, that's good. Very good. So now we'll try to see how a function works. I passed numbers here. Can I pass a string and see how it works? Okay. So let's say, for example, I want to print something 100 times. Okay. So you can keep typing print 100 times. That's work. Okay. Or if I can just do using a function, like say, I want to say function, don't use function, define a function called as statement. Okay. This is going to be my function. So I'm going to pass a message. I'm going to say how many times I need to to print this one. Okay. I'll say print statement multiple times. Okay. This is going to be my. Okay. So what this does, I'm going to print this message. Okay. Whatever I'm going to call this function, that's going to print this message. So I'm going to call this function and I'm going to say some message. Okay. So if I wanted to say okay. So I call this. You saw that? So it says that I need to provide some value for times. Okay. And I've not defined anything. Okay. So if you want to keep this optional and if you want to set a default value, you can put it as equal to 0. Okay. So if this will set it as default as 0. So now this will not give an error. Okay. So what it does, it just picks up the one and then prints the message. But if I want it to print, so you can use this asterisk one and say, this is the number of times I want it to print. Sounds good? So now if I want this one to be printed 50 times, I'm just going to pass 50 and it's going to first. Okay. So I'm hard coding into 0, so it's not working. So you saw this? It's printing it 50 times. So if I have to add a new line break, then I need to mention a new line break here every time, and then it will work. Okay. So after that, it will work. Yeah, I don't have to because it will print it string into times itself is going to do the looping. So you don't have to write any flow. Okay. Okay, sounds good. Okay, and the next one is like say, okay, so I'm going to give you guys a question now. Okay, so from whatever I have seen. Okay, so you're going to define a function. Okay, with no default value for A. Okay, B default value is 5 and C default value is say 10. Okay, then what is your function has to do is that it has to say A is what number, B is what number. So it has to say first, what is this each number is. Okay, so you need to tell that number. So you're going to take 3 values and basically A is going to be the only mandatory value that the person has to give. Okay, so if a person is not going to give B and C, you're going to have a default value created here. Okay, okay, and okay, so let's do this. So can you guys write this simple one, very, very simple one for first. Then we'll build on to it. Exactly. Vivek has got it. So he says this. Okay. This is exactly the code. So if I want to call the function, so if I call the function and say only A I'm printing. Okay. So it will say that it will pick up the default value of 5 and 10 and it will pick only 3 from the user. And if I pass some other value, okay, then it will say it will pick it up from the user. Good one, good one. Okay, understood. Okay, so I'm going to run a small piece of code. Okay, so you guys are going to tell me what is this one doing. Okay, so this will help you understand the whole logic of how the function works. Okay, fine. I'm having some number, say x is equal to 40, right? 40, okay? I'm having some number 40. And then I'm defining a function. It's going to take an input value, okay? Don't get confused with different x's. My code is going to have a lot of x's, so you're going to find out, okay? So print okay, Okay. So now, before I run it, if I run it, you guys will be able to find out what's happening. Okay. So you tell me what's happening here and what's the answer. So first is x is equal to 40. So then you're defining a function. Okay. So this is the function call here, isn't it? So separate this out. So whenever you have a function call, that's going to happen after you define a function. So whenever you get a code like this, separate this out. Let's understand that function call first. What's it trying to do is it's going to get x, okay? Some number, it can be anything. I've just for confusing you, I'm going to given it as x, okay? It's going to print what the value is, and then it's changing the value to 3, and then it's telling the value is now changed to 3. Okay, whatever the value of x you pass, it's changing the value of that x to 3 and printing the value of x is 3. Okay, sounds good. So now I'm passing this function x. So what is this x which is getting passed here? Anyone? Is it 40 or 3? Always remember, guys, this is only defining a function. Defining a function is nothing but you are defining a set of code and keeping it. It will not get executed. It will get executed only when you are calling this function, isn't it? So this function is nothing but a formula which is being created and kept in your cupboard box. Okay. It only when you open the cupboard and retrieve it, it will get executed. So opening that cupboard is nothing but you're calling your function. Okay. So till then, this is just a set of formulas that is written and kept. Okay. So what will happen here is, see this. First, x is 40 is getting printed. Okay. This line of code gets printed, not from here. Okay. Here, this code is getting executed and stored in a cupboard box. Till here, none of the code will get executed. If you want to believe, don't believe me, I'm just writing this one. But see here, if I write this, see here, nothing is getting printed. It's just a placeholder. Okay. So now once this function gets called, it goes here and you're opening the cupboard box with 40 as your value. Then print x is 40 is getting is called. So print x is 40 is getting called. Then 3 is getting changed to, and then it's printing x now is 3, right? Then after this call is getting over, it's coming back here, and then it prints x is still 40 and prints this. Okay. So all this are getting printed only after this one. Okay. Nothing gets printed here. Okay. So this is just a placeholder. Are you guys able to understand? Okay. Any doubt, guys? Okay. So let me take it further. I'm going to write another piece of code for function so that you guys better understand it and appreciate it before we move to the next one. Okay. So I'm going to define function. Come to those values. Can anyone tell me what I have done here? What's happening here? I know it's a complex piece of code. What? Okay, Sanjay, what is the scope concept? Can you tell me? Yeah. Okay. So return, one concept I have added here is return. So till now we have been only printing the values. So now what you've done is you return the count from a particular function back to the trigger function. Okay. So whoever is opening up the cupboard, they're giving back the person something instead of only displaying something in from the cupboard, right? So that is return function. Okay. That is fine. But what is this? Star numbers, star keywords. What is this just? Anyone? Accept the numbers of variable length, and it allows us to give us multiple values. Okay, sounds good. Very good. No, this is not exponential. So this is not going to be exponential here. Okay. So this is effectively telling that accept multiple values over here. Okay. So anyone else? What is this star args and star k walks, Bharat? What is this for? Can you explain it more? What is this non-keyword arguments and what is it? Okay. So if someone is going to come and ask you, what is this used for? What is the use case for that? Okay. No one is answering that. Okay, let me try to do a simple one. Okay, so just this, I'm just using a simple function. Okay, and argument in the argument list. Okay, argument values. Okay. So I'm just getting some argument values. I'm going to print the argument which is going to be printed. Okay, so that's fine. So, but I do, if I say, for example, if I don't know what this guy is going to give me as argument, okay, so if I say I'm going to print like this, okay, argument is that, okay, so argument values that I'm going to get, okay, but if this guy is going to give me simple function, he's going to call the function, okay, fun, and I'm going to say hello, this will work. So values argument. So this is printing, this is fine, okay? But the problem is that if I want it to, this guy is going to give me like this, he's going to give me more than one, it will error out because this function will be expecting only one value and I'm printing giving him two values as arguments. So when you are not sure about how many values a person is going to pass as argument values, what you're going to use is a concept called as this. Okay. So this is called as star arguments, which is nothing but non-keyword arguments. Okay. So this is called as what it effectively does is now whatever you define here. So if you go and put hello, it will print all the words which can be passed as arguments. So you are not defining exactly how many arguments you are going to pass when it comes to strings, right? So this makes your life much more easier. You do not have to mandate a person to pass this much as arguments. Okay, so makes sense. Okay, you can also iterate through it. Okay, so you can say first argument is equal to arg1, second argument is equal to arg2, and all this stuff. So you can say for arg and arg values, print arg1, print arg2, print arg3. You can iterate it also. So you can iterate it over there. Okay, so are you able to understand what a star arguments is? Okay, so now let's move on to the next one, which is called as a K arguments, which is nothing but the keyword arguments. Okay, so what is this keyword arguments? Keyword arguments is nothing but your keywords. Okay, so key. So what is this keywords? Let me try to help you with a small piece of code again. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to pass in keywords. Okay. So I'm just writing everything. I'm using a dictionary here. Okay, so if you don't, every key value pair, I'm going to ask it to print it. Okay, so print. Okay, so I'm going to pass this one. Say pass 3 values. Say passing this. Takes 0%, but 5 at me. Okay, so we're taking zeros, is it? Oh, okay. So this is taking the driver code for this. Okay, so it's taking up a dictionary. Sorry. Specify it as a work. So you might probably have to make a few changes. Give me a second. I change that. Last is equal to the string. Pass the string element over here. Element. Checking it. Okay, sounds good. So, okay, so think of this. Okay, so what is this keyword argument? Keyword argument is where you provide a name to the variable as you pass it into the function. Okay, so what is it trying to do is I'm giving a name to this. So first is I am mid is Python, last is argument. So I'm giving a name to a particular value and then I pass it to the keyword argument. So that's why it's called as keyword argument. Okay, so I'm giving a keyword and then passing on to it. So just imagine that keywords is as a dictionary. Okay, that maps each keyword to the value and then you then pass it into a function. So see here, I am then printing the each one of the key value which are there, which is nothing but IAM is nothing but first, Python is nothing but mid, and argument is nothing but the last one. So effectively, I'm printing the each one of the argument that I picked in here, and I am printing it out here. Okay. So when do you use args? Args is nothing but when you're not sure about number of arguments that you're going to receive from a user, you're going to use what is it called as non-keyword arguments. And for keyword arguments, what you would need to do is that you use it whenever you're going to pass in dictionary type of values, right? So in those type of values, you're going to pass those keyword arguments. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so any questions? There are quite a few. Can we define a function with the list? Yes, you can define a function and you can pass a list and print out a list as well. You want to pass a function with the list in the argument. What do you want? Okay, star s is nothing but a string. Okay, so it is nothing but it's telling equate this first and equal to IM and then print the key value. That's all. Okay, so you can ignore this. Okay, so very rarely you use keywords. Okay, but this is something that you need to know whenever there's going to be something like this when it is there. Okay. Okay, so you want me to do a function with a list. Okay, so we can do that. So it's very simple. Like say, for example, we had a num list in this today, right? So we had a num list. You have this num list. So if you want to define a function, we did it, right? I think you say, for example, this is my function, and you're going to pass a list to that function. So it's going to take the list and then put the code that you wanted to do, right? So what did you do in the code there earlier, right? So you did all those activities that you did in the list, right? So for num and num list, if number is greater than 5, so whatever you want to do. So this was the code that you wanted to do. Take this and put the code inside that. Okay. So now you have defined the okay, sorry. I'm just indenting it properly. Okay, so inside the list will take list as an this function will take a list as an argument, and then will pick for each number. And if the number is greater than 5, it will print that number. Otherwise, it will not print. So now, if I am going to pass the function, so within that function, I'm going to pass any list that you want. Okay, so you're going to pass this number list that you already created. You see that answer will come directly, right? So earlier we were hard coding it and directly calling the function, right? So now you can directly write it. Okay, sounds good. Okay, okay, list with strings. Yeah, it's similar to that. Very similar, right? So say, for example, you have a list with the names of people, right? So how do you create a list first? So you have okay, so I'm just creating it. So I just created a list with the name of people. So now if you want to define a function, this is my function, and then you're going to pass the list inside. So you will not know what is that. So for each name in the list, okay, for each name in the list, what do you want to do? I want to print it. So you can print it, print the name. Okay. So define the function. For name is colon. So it will work. And now you need to call that function, right? So my function, and then within this, I'm going to call the list that I created. Okay, so for now you can call any list, you can create any list, and then you call this one, you can call this one and print it. Okay, so that should probably works. Okay, sounds good. Any other questions that we have? Okay, so you wanted an example of how to call a function with an argument list. Okay, you can do that. So you can do that using star arguments, or you can also use directly a function also. Okay, so you can do that as well. Okay, sounds good. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now this is functions. Functions are nothing but you use it within the same program. So it works really good. Okay, so but there's something more than functions. Okay, just an extension of whatever the functions are, what is called as modules. Okay, so what is this modules? So functions we saw that can be used within the same program, right? But if you want to use a function in other programs, okay, then you need to use something called as modules. Modules are something that can be imported into another program, and the functions contained in those modules can be used. So if you are using a module and if you have a list of functions, you can import it from another person and use that particular functions which is there in the another module. Okay. Simplest way to create a module is to write a .py file with functions defined in that particular file. Okay. Or you can also do is import using .pyc files, which I will not be going there. So what we'll try to do is very simple. Let's do this basic things of code module. Modules are extensions of functions. Okay, so we used to import functions by another program. Okay, so let's say, for example, import OS. Okay, and dot get CWD. Okay. Okay, so very simple. I'm importing a particular package and I'm just printing the current working directory. That's all. Okay, I've not done anything more on this. Okay, so far. Okay, so now I'm just importing another package called as math. Okay, for use for running maths. Okay, and then do this. Okay, so now say for example, if I'm going to use a function which is going to be there inside the math package. Okay, so if I have to import that particular ones and I'm going to use it, say if x is equal to say minus 453. Okay, so I'm just writing some number, and if I want to use the functions which are defined inside it, what did I do initially? So I imported something and then used it, right? You saw we not imported anything so far, right? So import numpy, did we do? No, I don't think so. Okay, so if you want to import a module, you're going to import a module from somewhere and you're going to use. These are all inbuilt modules in Python. So you're going to import math, import numpy, import pandas. So you're going to import that particular module and then dot that particular function name will give you that function inside. Okay, so math is the module name and then dot function name. Okay, so this is OS is the module name dot function name, right? So to find out the get current working directory, you can use os.get current CWD will give you the current working directory. So this function is nothing but it's getting you the current working directory. So they would have defined code inside it. You do not have insight into that code. You do not need to know the code. All that you know is that if you give it this way, it will give you the current working directory. Like similarly, say here, if there's a function called as factorial inside math module. Okay, so if I want to find out the factorial for some value. Okay, so what I'm going to do is call the module that, so factorial. Okay, but this is a minus 433. So I need to make it as absolute value, right? So it is absolute value of x. So all that it has to do is it will create the factorial and give me the final value. Okay, so the factorial of minus 433 or nothing but 433 is this. Okay, so this code for this particular function, you do not need to know what is the code that you have to write inside. So when your friend from another department has to share it, he will share you the module name. It's nothing but say math here. So he'll give you the module name. So you need to just import it and then dot function name. Okay, that's all. Okay, are you guys clear how it is done? Okay, so functions are used in the same notebook multiple times. Okay, but if you want to share it from one person to another, you're going to save the functions and create it as a .py file. I'll show you how it is done. Okay, and then once it is done, then you are going to give it to the next person, the module name and the function name. Then that person is going to use it. Okay. Sounds good. Okay, awesome. So now let's move on to an important part called as exception handling. So we still have half an hour left. So I'll leave you guys in the next 15 minutes. Okay, so I know it's already 1.5 hours now. Okay, so exception handling. What is exception handling? Okay, I see a few questions. Let's try to take a few questions before we move on to this content. Sure, Shweta, I'll do that. Yeah, PDF files for the class. Okay, so I'll upload the HTML files right after the class every time. Okay. Yeah, you'll guys will get the Jupyter notebook and the HTML file as well. Okay. Any other questions, guys, before we move on to the exception handling? Okay, so I think most of the stuff are already answered. Yes, I'll give you the .external files. Okay, so okay, sounds good. So okay, after all the classes, I send a file to Jatinder. I'll follow up with him and ensure that it is being sent to you guys. Okay, or what I'll do even better is I'll upload it into one of my Google Drives and I'll give you the links and you can download that from there. That works? That is better? Okay. So yeah, that should be better. Okay. That's good. I'll do that. Perfect. So just stay with me for the next 15 minutes. We'll finish that and I'll then quickly create a folder in my Google Drive and I'll send you the link. Okay. That's good. Okay. So let's do this exception handling. Okay. So what is this exception handling? Every time we run a piece of code, you saw that we got few exceptions and then we troubleshoot it and then we debug and then we correct it, right? But when you run long period of codes and then when you give it to the end users, you don't know how the end users are going to feed in data, right? So they might probably be whenever they are supposed to enter in number data, they might probably enter in string data. So you, some of the times you will probably add logic to capture it into the front end. Sometimes you will add the logic to capture it into the back end. Sometimes you will get a divisible by zero error, sometimes a typecast error, or sometimes number exception, network exception. You'll find lots and lots of different types of error, right? So how do we find this particular thing and how do you handle them, right? So that's going to be very, very crucial. Otherwise, you cannot risk your program to hang or break out in the middle, right? So that is not the user experience that you would want to give it to them, right? So an exception is any event that interrupts the normal sequential programming process. Okay, that is called as an exception. So for example, if you are going to read a file from a folder, okay, so you're running a Python code to read a file from the folder, and you do not have that particular folder or a file inside your directory, okay, or if you have accidentally deleted that file when you and another program has run, okay, so that will throw an error, right? So file not found error, right? So those are all exceptions, right? So similarly, what if your program had some invalid statements like situations which are not handled, cannot be handled? Those are all exceptions, right? So we can handle exceptions using what we call as try except statement. Okay, so what is this called as try and except statement? Any code you write, Okay, so all the code that we have written so far has to be mandatorily written between a try block and an except block. Okay, what do I mean by this try block and an except block? Okay, so what it tries to do is try block is going to tell do this. Okay, if you run into an error, then go to this except block. We are basically putting our normal statements within the try block and put all the possible except error handlings, the ones that you commonly have errors that you can probably foresee, into the except block. Except is EXCEPT, except block. Okay, so exception short form, except block, right? So like say, for example, I have this code, right? So this is the function that we have written. So I'm going to build on top of this. Okay. So what is this trying to do is you're having a function for every number, go and pick the number which is going to be greater than 5 and print that number. Very simple. Very, very simple. Right. Or let me try to say, for example, I'm going to put number is equal to num plus 5. Is equal to, like, do that sum function. Okay. So sum, because that again cover a lot of print the sum. Okay. So this is nothing but your summation, okay? Sum function that we did, right? So, okay, sorry. I'm not is equal to sum. I'm just going to print sum. Okay. If block, so I'm going to. Okay, very simple. So instead of printing, let's imagine that I'm returning this sum. Okay, so I'm returning it to the person who's calling me this sum. Okay. Instead of returning the sum, I'll probably add this something. I'm going to return the sum divided by the length of the list that is being given to me. Okay. So what is this? I'm going to do is, like, if I'm going to pass 4, 5, 6, it is going to say 4 plus 5 plus 6 divided by 3. Okay. So what is this I'm doing? What am I trying to calculate? What am I trying to calculate, guys? Average. Exactly. I'm calculating the average. So sum divided by the length of the list. Okay. So I'm returning this. Okay. So if you want to write it very explicitly, you can put it like this. Average is equal to this one, and then return the average. Okay. So I'm calculating the average and give it. Okay. Perfect. So this will work fine. Now, can you tell me what are the possible scenarios when this function will go bonkers? When will this function will not work? No, it will work for lots of numbers. Just imagine that I'm using my fun. I'm going to pass a function, right? So let's say I'm going to call a function. Okay. So say this is going to be my function. Okay. So list is going to be 2.3. This is the list I have that I want to pass, and I want to find the average of this number. So I'm calling this local variable sums reference before assignment time. Referencing it anywhere. Oh, sorry. What is the mistake? Can someone tell me? Equal to 0. We done this before, right? So this, it's calculating the average. It's working fine. But if I change this to D, okay, gone. Name D is not defined. Error is coming. Okay. So what is the type of error is coming? It's a name error, right? Okay. Guys, remember this, okay? Name error, okay? So, okay, fine. Now, if I give 3.44, 3.22, does it work? Yeah, it's working fine, so I don't have to worry about this. If I don't give any values into this list, what's happening? Let's see. Oh, that's another error. Okay, so let me write down the all possible error that I have. Okay, so name error, and then what is this error? Zero division error. What is this? Why is this happening? Anyone? Anyone? Length of the list is zero. So your summation divided by zero is actually throwing out to be an infinite, right? So zero division error is coming, right? Okay. So now if I'm going to say, I'm going to give a number like only a variable. This is, what the hell is this happening? What is this happening here? What is this? Type error. So if I'm going to give a string name, that is also is picking it out. So that is a type error. Okay, fine. So these are all the different types we have no code, right? Okay, so this is fine. Okay, that's fine. So now we are going to write this whole code inside a, sorry, I'm going to write this whole code inside a try except group. Okay, I'm telling you how to do that. Okay, so let me go to the step by step we'll do that. Okay, so now I told you that the main code should be inside the try block, right? So write the code whatever you want to, then write the try block. So the try block and then indent. Okay, move everything in. Okay, so from 0 for then return is all fine. So is it working fine? Return average of file word parsing. Something is wrong. It's end of file word parsing is coming here. Put it inside this. I want things required. Okay, I think it's missing the except block. I'm doing it. Let's see. Okay. Oh, so you're going to try this. I'm going to try this, whatever it was supposed to be done. Okay. And I am going to find out, I'm going returning this, right? So instead of, and then returning this, and then I'm going to print this one, right? So you're going to print, what I'm going to print? Averages. Okay. And what is average? It's nothing but here, this one, right? So this is fine. So now you have tried this one. Okay. Now you're going to go and do except. Okay. So in except, you're going to write, try all this stuff. But if it fails, then what are the different values that we have? Except, what is the value that you have? Except is type, what is the name error we had, right? First, name error. Like, so if you have example, then if you have a name error, then what do you want to type? So you want to say print name error. Okay. You're going to print name error is equal to, and then you're going to print an example. Okay, so I'm going to use the same syntax for the other ones also. So you can get a name error and you can get a zero division error also, right? So you get a zero division error. Zero division error. And right, so this is fine. Okay, so if you can't write type error also, you can do that. So or let's check for zero division error. What's the other one? Type error, right? Type error. Type. Okay, so this should run. Except name error is failing. Let's see. Is that right? Okay. Let's try to run for type error and see if it is working. So I think I need to clean up this code. Try this. Are you guys able to complete this? No, before return. Problem is closing. No, it's not. Or you I need to return this only, right? Before you calculate everything, calculate the average. Come out and return it. For every loop you do. So you need to you come out of this loop and then return the average, print the average, right? So this is fine. Let me see this. Control X. This is end of file. Okay, so I need to troubleshoot this one. Okay, so I'll complete this troubleshooting and then I'll start off with the handling exception next class. Okay, so I think I'll create this one and I'll send across to you guys. Okay, fine. Okay, so I think it needs some time. Did anyone guys fill it? Okay, so I don't think it'll not waste time in the class. Okay, so let me finish that off and then I'll take it. Okay, so let me rename it for today's one. So this was today's was day 3, right? So day 3. Save this file as an icon, so and someone wanted us Excel file as well, HTML file, so we should be it's an HTML file as well. Numbness is the problem. 1 second, someone is helping me. Let me get the help. Oh, correct. For num in list, this name was just num list, right? Okay. Is that the problem? No, it just throwing up an error on the end of file. So something's wrong with the indentation here. Okay. Okay. But that's again, I give that to you. Okay. So I'll fix that one and then I'll send it across to you guys. Okay. Sounds good. So let me try to upload this one out for you. Okay. Okay. Someone wanted a Python file as well. I'll keep that to you as well. Sounds good. Okay. So let me create a folder for you guys. Okay, sounds good. I'm just gonna upload some files. So I'm pinging you the link of the page. You can download it from there. Okay. Can you guys confirm that you're able to see the file? I pinged it into the chat section. So you can download the whatever format that you want. Okay. So I have uploaded the .py file. Okay, so you can download the Titanic .csv file also. So I uploaded it over there. You may need it for a pandas class. Okay, so upload, take that file, Python file, IPNB notebook, and this all goes to that. So I'll upload the same place, the date 2 files as well, so that you guys can pick it from there. Okay, so I uploaded the data session 2 as well. Okay. Okay, you want the day 1 file as well. Okay, so I uploaded the day 1's file as well. Okay, so so it's the same folder we'll have for all the files. Okay, so I uploaded it. Okay, guys. So what we'll do is that I'll clean up the code for the try find block. So it looks like there's an end of file error that's coming in. So I'll clean up that and then I'll send you across the files. And next time when we meet, what I'll be doing is before the class starts, I'll be sending out a .py file for modules. So we will know how to share different files between different modules. So if I have a module that I want you to work, right? So I'll be sending you a module file. So what you're going to do is you're just going to download that module and then use a function inside it. Okay. So inbuilt modules and functions, we know how to use it, like math or NumPy, we know how to do it. But if I have to share something to you, or if you want to share it with someone else, right? So we'll be doing that. Okay. So that is something. And other one is going to be, next one will be how to, okay, someone has asked me how to take inputs from different files. Wait for that. So once we head into pandas, we'll be doing all the file handling and also how to read a text file and everything as well. So next class, what we'll be doing is we'll be reading a text file and how are we going to navigate through a text file, reading a text file, writing to a text file also, and then we'll move on to the pandas. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so any other questions, guys? So next one will be on the next Sunday. Yeah. Polls, I don't know. I'll need to check with the James team what they're planning for. Okay, so I'll check with them and I'll let you know, guys. Okay, so what I'll probably do is that if they want us to do the polls or me to do the polls rather, then I'll set up one for you guys next week, and next Sundays, whatever the portions will be, including whatever you covered so far and whatever we'll be covering in the next class also. So it will be a combined poll for all the stuff. Then I'll probably be happy to do that. Okay, so I'll do that. Okay, and once you the scores will be collated and I'll send it across to you. So there'll be a set of around 10 to 15 questions, and we will keep it for I think for the last 15-20 minutes of the next class, and we will get the winners out. Okay, sounds good. Okay, for registration, I think Jatinder will be sending out. So Jatinder is the point of contact, so he sends the details for me as well. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being a nice audience, and thank you for being a very good participation on this. So I'll fix that one exception handling one, and I'll catch you guys on next Sunday. Okay. Have a good one, guys.